Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi à tous. My name is Elizabeth Ann McCleve, and I'm Vestor's Director of Communications. It's an honor for me to join you today on behalf of the board to be your MC. Before we continue, it's important that we acknowledge the land on which we gather. Though we're gathering virtually, our team, along with the Board of Trustees and today's presenters, are located throughout the province of New Brunswick. We respectfully acknowledge that New Brunswick is situated on the unceded and unsurrendered territories of the Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, and Pescatawamukw peoples. We seek to repair and rebuild meaningful relationship with Indigenous peoples and honor these lands which hold the hopes of future generations. Today, we are joined by several presenters: Kathy Greenbank, Chair of the Board of Trustees of the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan; Yves Plourde, Actuary and Partner with TELUS Health, the plan's chosen independent actuary; and Sean Hewitt, the President and CEO of Vescor, the plan's chosen investment manager and administration services provider. Together, they'll provide us with an overview of the board's role and update on the financial health of the plan. They'll also provide you opportunity to ask them questions live. We've also provided them with any question that were submitted by members in advance of today's meeting. Also joining us are members of the Board of Trustees. If you're curious to learn more about the individuals who oversee the pension plan, please visit nbpspp.ca/board of trustees /board, for their biographies. The board is comprised of the following individuals: Catherine Greenbank, a retired professional accountant and a retiree of the plan. Kathy has been on the board since 2017. The Vice President of the Board, Sébastien Deschênes, who's Vice President of the Edmundston campus of the Université de Moncton and Professor of Accounting. David Brown, Business Manager of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, or IBEW, Locals 37. Paula Doucette, President of the New Brunswick Nurses Union. René Laforêt, Chief Executive Officer of Service New Brunswick. Jim Meehan, Deputy Minister with the Department of Social Development. Marilyn Quinn, retired nurse and past president of the New Brunswick Nurses Union. Lee Sprague of the New Brunswick Union. And Odette Robichaud, retired court stenographer and past president of the CUPE Local 1840 and past CUPE Regional Vice President. There are also two observers on the board: Chris Russell, Red Seal plumber and maintenance repair worker with the New Brunswick Community College, and Susie Prudag, president of the NBU. And now we'll go straight into our chair's address. It's my pleasure to welcome Kathy Greenbank, Chair of the Board, to address you. Kathy?
Today, I will talk about the role of your board. My view is the role of the Board of Trustees is pretty clear. Look after the interests of the members of the plan. A number of the trustees are members of the plan, so that helps. When making decisions, we consider all members of the plan, those entering their careers, those who are building for retirement, and retirees. As you can appreciate, it's a diverse group, but we all want the same thing: a plan you can count on. We want members to have a good understanding of their plan and a positive experience when interacting with the service provider, Vescor, who takes care of day-to-day administration. So, how do we, as trustees, look after members' interests? The largest part of our time and energy is spent focusing on ensuring our plan is secure and sustainable. I'm pretty sure that is what you expect and want us to do. What does secure and sustainable mean? Well, a secure and sustainable pension plan is a well-funded plan that is able to provide a predictable income for life with an ability to weather inflation. How does your board ensure everything is in place to fulfill that pension promise? There's a lot, so bear with me. The full board meets quarterly as a minimum, and our governance and audit committees meet quarterly and semi-annually, respectively. We have education days along with any needed ad hoc meetings. My job as chair is to work on the agenda and keep our meetings running smoothly and on task. I have help from a great board support team who makes sure we review what is needed throughout the year. The committee chairs do the same. Our board packages contain reports matching the agenda items and run in the 300 plus page range, so lots of reading to do. For today, I would like to focus on some of the items we review. Let's talk about the plan's investments. I think you would agree that's a pretty important place to start. We look at how the plan's investments have performed in the previous quarter, along with the longer term trend. Ours is a diverse investment plan, and to give a sports analogy, not expected to be swinging for the fences. How do we know how well it's performing? As you can imagine, the plan holds hundreds of investments, so it wouldn't be possible for us to review each and every holding. Instead, the holdings are summarized into several categories, such as fixed income and equities, and then subcategories within these. For example, Canadian public equities and global emerging markets, to name a couple. The quarterly investment report included in our board package summarizes the return in each category of the asset mix, what percentage it went up or down in value. Each category's return is compared to a benchmark, so we can tell how it is performing compared to externally published investment returns. For example, we see how our Canadian equity holdings did compared to the TSX. When our plan returns are greater than the individual benchmarks, which we will see in presentations later, that difference is what we call a value added return. That's a good thing. That tells us that our investment team is doing better than putting your contributions into index funds and letting them fend on their own. This additional return adds money to our plan and helps us grant cost of living adjustments each year. Does that tell us everything? Well, not really. We also want to know how our plan performed compared to other funds. We see that too. We understand that our fund is designed to carry less risk, no swinging for the fences again. And we see where we fit relative to risk and returns of other funds. Hmm, enough, you say? Well, not really. We also need to know what all this costs. We could have great returns, but the cost of running the plan could eat into those returns. So we look at what in the investment business is called the MER, or management expense ratio. This is our investment costs as a percentage of the asset's values. You likely see that term if you own any mutual funds or watch BNN. As you will also hear, the MER the plan has is very low in comparison to other plans and funds. Shoot, that's a lot of information. I know we don't have unlimited time, so I will touch on a couple of other key activities of the board. I imagine we all share similar traits. We all worry about one thing or another: family, work, relationships, finances. As a board, we asked ourselves, what keeps you up at night about the plan? Don't take this literally, just what are you unsure of? What risks are out there? Not only do we need to understand the risks that are inherent in the investments, but also understand other risks that may challenge our ability to fulfill the pension promise. As you will see in the presentation from our actuary later on, the plan has some pretty complicated calculations that let us know if it is sustainable for the next 20 years. He'll likely talk about stochastic modeling and running thousands of scenarios to see how the plan will hold up. Well, I certainly didn't take that in school. When we, as a board of trustees, don't have the expertise, we seek out the knowledge of experts in the field to help us. We felt we needed to know if the modeling that was being done did indeed tell us how the plan was doing. We engaged a research professor from UBC who validated and verified the results of these complex calculations. That study put our minds at ease. We were also concerned about outside factors or risks that might affect the plan. We worked away developing an enterprise risk management system. This system includes key risk indicators that look at various risks under the headings of board effectiveness, plan design, funding, investment policy, communication, and outsourcing risk. So, not just from the investment side. One risk that was and still is felt to be high for the plan is the cybersecurity threat, keeping your data and investments safe from hackers. That one is important enough to have its own report with a cybersecurity dashboard each quarter. We gain assurance knowing that systems are in place that monitor data each and every second. Our audit committee does an in-depth review of this report. There are lots of other fundamental activities of your board that ensure strong governance of the plan. But while I still have a bit of time, I'd like to touch on your experience with the plan. How are members' interactions looked at? What are members' experiences like? Are members getting clear and concise information in the best way to have a good understanding of the plan? We are listening to you, our members. Earlier this year, a number of you were contacted and participated in a member survey. What it has told us is that communication and education is important, as this is key for members to be satisfied and feeling secure about their financial future in retirement. Once again, the plan that we can count on. This survey, along with the comments and questions we received before and after this meeting, help us with member focus. This will be central as we head into our board priorities planning later this year. I hope to report back to you at our next meeting about progress in this area. Once again, I thank you for taking the time to join us, and I hope that our session today is informative and meaningful for you. We strive to look after our members' interests by having your fund fulfill that pension promise, secure and sustainable, so you can count on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
We'll now do the point, and Yves Blood is actuary and associate in TELUS Health, the independent actuary. An actuary and is expert in financial math and studies the level of financing of the regime or the plan, and so as to examine to examine that on an annual basis.
So thanks, Liz. My name's Yves Claude, and I'm an actuary with TELUS Health. I'm pleased to be here today to walk you through the results of the most recent actuarial valuation of the pension plan as at January 1st, 2025. I'll start with a short summary of the membership in the plan, and then review the evolution of the assets and the plan liabilities over the years, discuss the resulting financial position, not only at January 1st, 2025, but also through the recent past. I'll then review the risk management test results that we track annually, provide information on the cost of living adjustment that was awarded by the Board of Trustees for January 1st, 2026, and end my presentation with a review of a new communication tool put in place by the trustees last year involving traffic lights. Let's start with the plan's membership. You can see that the number of active members, shown by the tall green bars, stabilized at just under 19,000 from 2020 to 2022. It then started to grow again 2 years ago and now exceeds the 21,500 mark. It is healthy for the plan to see its number of active members increase rapidly, because it slows down the otherwise natural maturation of the plan, which in turn reduces the overall risk associated with providing benefits. For the number of retirees, the purple bars, we can see that it is continuing to grow slightly every year, as is expected, but this growth has now stabilized at about 19,000 at January 1st, 2025. We do expect a slowing growth in the number of retirees for another 10 years or so, and then we will see a stabilization of the retirees. On the asset side, the pension fund depicted by these blue bars has increased significantly since 2014, from about 6 billion at that time to its highest level to date. The pension fund is now exceeding $10 billion for the first time in its history. After a reduction in assets during 2022, it has now recovered and is currently sitting at just under $10.2 billion at January 1st, 2025. The investment return for the year 2024 was equal to 12.65%. It is this outstanding return that allowed the pension fund to grow beyond the 10 billion mark for the first time. Sean Hewitt of Vescor will provide more details about this return in his presentation. Now, in order to be able to determine the financial position of the plan, we need to compare the assets of the plan to its liability. The plan's liability in the orange bars is a representation of how much money we believe should be in the fund at the time of the valuation in order to pay all the benefits that members have accrued up to the date of the valuation. Over the last 10 years, the plan's liability went from just under 6 billion in 2014 to just under 8.7 billion on January 1st, 2025. You will notice that the assets in the plan were about equal to its liability back in 2014. It has now improved significantly over the last 10 to 11 years, with assets now exceeding liabilities by about 1.5 billion at January 1st, 2025. To ultimately determine the financial position of the plan, the trustees add to the assets the amount of contributions made to the plan in excess of the cost of the accruing benefits over the next 15 years. These excess contributions will allow a further buildup of assets, which in turn increases the security of benefits and will be used to provide highly probable and predictable protection against inflation through the award of cost of living adjustments. On January 1st, 2025, those excess contributions for the 15 years following the valuation date represent an amount of over 1.68 billion, which when added to the assets represents total adjusted assets of $11.88 billion. When you divide the adjusted assets by the liability, you obtain a funded ratio called the open group funded ratio. As you can see in this graph, this ratio has remained well above 100% over the last 10 years, which means that we believe there is enough assets in the plan, including excess contributions, to provide for all the benefits payable for the lifetime of active members and retirees. The funded ratio has in fact increased from a level of 121.5% in 2014 to an ultimate peak to date of 134.8% at January 1st, 2022. As you are aware, since 2022, we have experienced inflation levels not seen in decades. It is interesting to note from the graph that while inflation was kept in check during the period of 2014 to 2022, you can see that the plan was able, as a general trajectory, to continuously improve its financial position. That period was essentially used to prepare for more tumultuous times. So while inflation has spiked in 2022 and 2023, the good work of the prior 8 years, during which time a significant surplus was accumulated, has allowed the trustees to prioritize the award of expensive, elevated COLAs to plan members. This caused the plan's financial status to pause its increasing trajectory while those elevated COLAs were awarded. And we can see that the financial position retreated to about 130% for the 2 years following 2022. During those 2 years, COLAs of over 5% per year was provided, and last year a COLA of 3.7% was provided, covering all inflation during that period. We can now breathe a sigh of relief that this period of high inflation has subsided. Over the last year, inflation has remained at about 2%, which is equal to the target set by the Bank of Canada. We can also see that the financial position of the plan has recovered from its lower funded ratio of the last 2 years and has now reached a new peak of 136.5%, the highest funded ratio to date. It now appears that the battle against inflation is in the rearview mirror, and the plan is left in its best funded position ever. Both of those bodes really well for the future. Actuarial projections that we conduct every year for the trustees reveal that we can expect that the increasing trajectory of the funded ratio for the plan will continue in the long term, as it has during the period of 2014 to 2022. There will be bumps in the road, but you can rest assured that with a funded ratio of over 136% as of today, your plan is better prepared than it has ever been to face whatever market uncertainties that may lie ahead.
Now, let's take a look at certain risk management tests conducted annually. The first risk management test involves calculating the probability that base benefits under the plan will not have to be reduced over the next 20 years. This test tells us that in more than 99.55% of the studied cases, the base benefits payable from the plan are not reduced. This score well exceeds the minimum of 97.5% mandated by pension laws. The second risk management test involves the calculation of the average cost of living increases that can be expected to be provided under the plan over the next 20 years. This calculation results in expected average costs of living adjustments of 95.7% of inflation over the next 20 years. Again, the results of this second test is very positive and indicates a very high likelihood that cost of living adjustments are going to continue. This brings me back to the topic of inflation and cost of living adjustments. Your plan has been designed to provide, and Kathy mentioned earlier, to offer protection against inflation under a form of cost of living adjustments. Inflation is measured by the increase of the Consumer Price Index as published by Statistics Canada every month. For the 12-month period in June 2025, the average increase in the CPI, Consumer Price Index, for inflation in Canada was 2.01%. The trustees were able to provide again this year a COLA equal to full inflation of 2.01% effective January 1st, 2026. The COLA is provided at a cost of $164.5 million. It is a great achievement by the plan to have been in position to provide COLAs which have equaled full inflation since its conversion to a shared risk plan on January 1st, 2014, especially considering that we experienced a few years of inflation which spiked to levels not seen in decades. And the plan was able to provide these elevated COLAs while increasing its funded level to its highest level to date of over 136%. These are results we can all be proud of. Before I end my presentation, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the traffic lights communication tool developed by the Board of Trustees. The board has introduced last year a system of traffic lights to communicate more effectively the financial health of the plan. The traffic light was identified as a quick and easy way to transmit information about the financial status of the pension plan and its ability to provide cost of living adjustments. It is now being used in most communication material issued by the trustees, such as in newsletters and annual reports. The traffic light will change color depending on the level of the open group funded ratio of the plan. In turn, the level of the funded ratio provides you with an indication of the ability of the plan to provide cost of living adjustments. Therefore, we hope that you will be able to appreciate how healthy the plan is and its ability to provide cost of living based on the color of the traffic light that will be revealed each year when actuarial valuation results are available. A green light indicates that the funded ratio for the plan exceeds 120%. In turn, a funded ratio of over 120% indicates that the plan is in a healthy financial position and that it can provide the cost of living adjustments for that year. As you can appreciate, with a funded ratio that is currently at a level of 136.5%, the plan is currently showing a green light. A yellow light would start to be shown on communication material when the plan's funded ratio falls between 105 and 120%. This yellow light would mean that COLA can be granted most of the time, but that it may be less than full inflation. That means that there will also be years while under a yellow light, the COLA may not be provided. Finally, a red light would mean that the plan's funded ratio has fallen below 105%. That means that the plan is not able to award COLA while the funded ratio is at that level. Furthermore, there would be a heightened risk of increases in contributions as those would appear when and if the plan's funded ratio falls below 100% for 2 years in a row. Finally, under a red light, the possibility of a reduction in benefits would also be a concern. The trustees certainly hope that they will never have to show the plan's membership a red light, but the communication tool allows for it if the financial situation deteriorates to that point. The probability of this scenario happening is very low. If we look back at the last decade, if the trustees had initiated this communication tool from day one in 2014, we can confirm that since its conversion to a shared risk plan, the plan has consistently been in a green light status because the funded ratio has never dropped below 120%. This means that the plan has remained in a healthy financial position over the last decade, with an ability to provide consistent and predictable COLA throughout these years. I hope that you found the information provided interesting and useful, and that it provided you with a better understanding of how financially healthy your plan has become over the years. I also hope that the new traffic light communication tool will provide all members with a quick way to determine the financial health of the plan and its ability to provide the cost of living adjustments. I thank you for your attention and will remain available for the question period. Thank you. Thank you very much, Eve. Updates on the financial situation of the plan, including the traffic lights, are always available on the plan's website and in bulletins, quarterly newsletters. So you don't have to consult the website to get the latest information. It's now a pleasure for me to invite Sean Hewitt to make a presentation on behalf of STAR. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you very much, Liz. Thank you, Eve, and thank you, Kathy. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I have about 18 months under my belt here as the president and CEO of VESCOR and as a resident of New Brunswick. It's an honor for me to present to you all today as a representative of your pension administrator and investment manager. A little bit about us before we begin. We offer innovative and cost-effective integrated investment management, pension and benefit administration services. We have 160 professionals located in New Brunswick. Importantly, we are independent and non-for-profit. Another important feature of VESCOR, all of our staff are members of the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan, which is a condition of employment at VESCOR. So we also contribute to the plan in the same manner that all of you do. We are jointly owned by the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan and the New Brunswick Teachers Pension Plan. The owners are responsible for broad oversight of VESCOR, including the appointment of our independent board of directors of VESCOR Inc. We are regulated and supervised as an investment fund manager and portfolio manager by the New Brunswick Financial and Consumer Services Commission, FCNB. We support 114,000 plus pension plan members, 43,000 employee benefits members, and over 100 employer groups. We will start the review of our services by talking about investment management. So what we are responsible for is manyfold. First of all, we are responsible for the day-to-day management of investment. We are responsible for regular reporting of investment performance to our clients. We are responsible for regular reporting on compliance and responsible investments. And working with the plan actuary, we conduct analysis on the sustainability of the plan and projections. Important to note, we do not determine the plan's risk tolerance or fund objectives or determine the plan's target asset allocation. Those are responsibilities that rest with the Board of Trustees upon advice from external experts. At the end of last year, VESCOR had approximately $23 billion under management across all plans, which makes us the largest investment manager in Atlantic Canada. An interesting feature of VESCOR's investment management is the capabilities of our internal team. Of that $23 billion, over 80% of it is managed by our internal team here in New Brunswick. This is significantly different from other pension investment organizations, which often rely on hiring relatively expensive third-party for-profit investment management firms, primarily located in Toronto, New York, and overseas. This combination of our size and internally managed approach has resulted in our investment management costs being one of the lowest in Canada, according to external cost benchmarking studies. In 2024, our costs were about 0.2% lower than the average pension investment organization of our size. That 0.2% might not sound like a large number, but on a total of $23 billion, that translates into roughly $45 million of cost reduction per year. Those costs are accrued directly to our clients and their beneficiaries. Moving on to the public service pension plan, Eve mentioned the total assets under the plan rests at just over $10 billion at the end of 2024. That's an increase of approximately $900 million from the year before. The investments in the portfolio are very well diversified across multiple types of investments. Returns are exceeding benchmarks and supporting the continued strong funded status and being risk managed well through the investment policy and our independent risk team. Let's take a deeper look into where the plan is invested. This is a snapshot of the asset mix of your plan. To find a copy of this information, refer to the plan's 2024 annual report available on the website. The URL appears at the bottom of this slide. The investments of the plan are very well diversified. The four largest components of the investment strategy are corporate bonds, low volatility equity, real estate and infrastructure, and government bonds. These are relatively low risk types of investments that are designed to perform under a variety of different market conditions. To round out the portfolio, we also have allocations to higher return-seeking assets such as market cap equities and private equity. Taken as a total portfolio, this is designed to perform under a variety of market conditions in order to meet the pension obligations today and over the long term. Let's dive a little bit into performance. Here's a slide showing the investment returns specific to the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan through December 31st of last year. In 2024, we earned a return of 12.65%, which is modestly above the investment benchmark return over the period. This is a really strong investment result. But more importantly, we have earned strong risk-adjusted returns over the long term. This chart shows an annualized return of 6.1% over the 4-year period and 7.14% since 2014. It's important to note that the investment performance of our team has meaningfully outperformed both the investment benchmarks over the time and the plan's discount rate. The plan's discount rate is a measure of a required return needed to support the funded position of the plan over time. And as I mentioned, this investment approach is actively managed by the investment team here in New Brunswick under the leadership of our Chief Investment Officer, John Spinney. Importantly, the plan has earned sufficient return to support the continued sustainability of the plan, enabling the Board of Trustees to continue to provide regular cost of living updates over this period and to support a strong funded position as presented by the plan actuary. 2025, moving to the next slide, has been a rather volatile year. However, the plan is performing very well. The positive return environment has continued thus far in 2025. This is a snapshot of the investment returns through June 30th, where we have earned a 3.47% return, which is modestly above the investment benchmark return over the period. Over the 1-year period ending June 30th, 2025, we have earned a 10.8% return. The last 12 months have been characterized by quite high returns, driven largely from strong global equity markets, despite considerable volatility over the year. In general, the plan continues to perform really well, including through 2025. Let's move on to administration services. We are responsible for answering day-to-day questions that you might have, receive employee and employer contributions on behalf of our clients, pay monthly pensions with pension payroll, and fulfill pension-related requests, such as pension estimates, retirements, marriage breakdowns, and other transactions. Additionally, we are also very active in providing member education sessions throughout the year. Please be on the lookout for an education session near you. Some key statistics for our administration services. The administration team remains very active with nearly 40,000 member and employer contacts over the year, with over 7,000 member applications processed. Importantly, we also conduct regular benchmarking of our costs relative to national peers on administration services, and we are proud to report that we continue to execute pension administration services cost effectively. Our cost per member, as ranked by a national peer group, is the lowest of our Canadian peers in 2024 at $111 per member. We continue to work on incorporating environmental, social, and governance issues into our investment and risk management processes. Late last year, we released our third annual Responsible Investment Report, which includes climate-related financial disclosures. Additionally, our responsible investment activities include industry associations dedicated to responsible investments. We have internal responsible investment guidelines that are governed by our independent board of directors and executed by the investment team. And we have made a commitment in 2024 to join the United Nations Principles of Responsible Investment as a signatory. More detail, including VESCOR's responsible investment guidelines, can be found at vescor.org/investments under responsible investing. Also new for 2024, the New Brunswick Public Service Pension Plan released its first plan-specific responsible investment report, which is located on their website. A couple more topics before we open it up for questions. I'll touch briefly on VESCOR and the New Brunswick community. We have a strong partnership with the University of New Brunswick, and throughout the organization, we have staff teach subjects such as corporate finance, investment management, and investment risk management. Additionally, we remain highly engaged in the community and encourage our staff to volunteer in various capacities. As an example, we have a 27-year relationship with the University of New Brunswick, where we started a student investment fund as an initial funding partner, and that gives us the opportunity to work with students at the University of New Brunswick to open up channels for a potential career in investment management here in New Brunswick. We've also started a master's program in quantitative investment management, which has been developed together with the University of New Brunswick, and staff continue to be instructors for programs, and we're happy to continue that work. We have a highly engaged staff. We have staff are encouraged to volunteer with various organizations, either investment or non-investment. And our staff have logged over 1,800 hours in the community for volunteer efforts. So that remains a very important part of what we do at VESCOR. I'll wrap it up in summary. VESCOR continues to be very cost-effective, exceeding long-term objectives of its owners and clients as intended. Our organizational structure and governance model is built on industry best practices with independent oversight, and we are committed to serving our clients and their beneficiaries. To wrap up, we are happy to serve as a central resource for plan members and employers and strive to be a trusted partner for our clients and their stakeholders. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have, and we'll turn the mic back to Liz. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. So thank you so much. As Sean mentioned, mid-year results and additional details on the upcoming cost of living adjustment and a lot more will be shared in the plan's fall newsletter, which will be distributed in the coming weeks. Keep an eye out for that one. And VESCOR is available Monday to Friday to answer any of your personal pension-related questions. Don't hesitate to contact us, whether you're actively contributing to the plan or drawing your pension. We're certainly here to provide help to you. We'll now move on to the question and answer period. I'm pleased to welcome Paula Doucette, who is a trustee of the Board of Trustees, to moderate this period. Paula will be posing a mix of questions from those that are being provided live, as well as those that were sent to the board in advance of the meeting. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, everyone. As Liz mentioned, my name is Paula Doucette, and I am a trustee on the board representing this plan. Happy to moderate the Q&A portion of your presentation today, and joining me to answer some of your questions will be Kathy Greenbank, President of the Board of Trustees, as well as our fellow member on the board, Eve Plourde from TELUS Health, Sean Hewitt, VESCOR's President and CEO, as well as Kent Eric Fries, the manager of VESCOR's Member Services team. So please join me in welcoming Kathy, Eve, Sean, and Kent to the Zoom panel here. So I know that there were many questions that we received in advance. Also, I see there are many questions being written into the Q&A, into the chat feature. So we will go through a few that have already been received. And then if we have time, we may have to extend, because I know it was booked just till 1 o'clock, but we may go till about 1:15 ish. For questions and answers, because we do feel that this is important. And for those that aren't being answered during this session, we will do our best to put it up into an FAQ afterwards onto our pension plans website. So I'm going to go directly to some questions that were submitted. And the first one would be for you, Eve. So we've received a couple of questions pertaining to the 5% reduction, often referred to as a penalty, that is applied to members who choose to retire before age 65. Members have asked why this is in place and whether it will be reduced, especially since the plan is in good financial health.
Thanks for the question, Paula. So a 5% reduction is referred to as a penalty, and that's the first thing that I want to debunk. I don't want to talk about it in terms of a penalty. It's actually a 5% reduction due to early retirement. The plan is funded on the basis that people retire at their normal retirement age, which is age 65. And so in order to be equitable to those who do retire at their normal retirement age versus those that retire at age 60, it's important to have a reduction for early retirement, such that if you decide that your personal situation is such that you're able to retire at age 60, then the pension you will receive over your lifetime is about equivalent to the pension that somebody age 65 will receive. And so it recognizes the fact that you will be receiving your pension for a longer period of time, since you are starting to receive it if you retire at age 60, for example, 5 years earlier. And so from the plan's perspective, paying a reduced pension from age 60 or the pension without reduction from age 65 is an equivalent proposition from a financial perspective, which is equitable amongst all members, including those that may be able to afford to retire at 60, but those who may not be able to retire at 60 and have to work till age 65. So that's the reason. It's to make sure that things are equitable from the way the plan is funded, which is ensuring a pension to all retirees at age 65 unreduced.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, Eve. Sean, I'm going to pose this question for you. What procedures are in place regarding investment of our funds, directly or indirectly, in investments supporting wars, genocides ongoing around the world, such as weapons, manufacturers, foreign government complicit in war crimes, AI being used to track and target civilians, etc.?
It's an important question. Thank you, Paula. First, I'd start with all investments are guided by our plan's statement of investment policies and procedures, which outlines the principles, constraints, and oversight applied to the investments in the pension plan. With InvestCore's framework, we also integrate responsible investment guidelines that are reviewed and approved by our independent board of directors. These guidelines inform our approach to responsible investment, incorporating environment, social, and governance matters into our investment process. Further, our internal responsible investment committee, which is chaired by our chief investment officer, has membership across senior leadership, including our risk teams and the president and CEO. Lastly, we remain very active in industry, promoting responsible investment, becoming a United Nations Principles for Responsible Investment signatory, and working with Canadian industry peer groups dedicated to promoting responsible investments. So I thank you for the question.
Great. Thank you for that explanation, Sean. Eve, I have another one I'll send back to you. How was the 12.45% annual rate of interest credited in 2024 calculated or made up?
So contributions with interest, Paula, every year is, well, it's increased. Your employee contributions under the plan are increased with interest. And the interest of 12.45 depends on the fund rate of return. So it does change every year. Depends on how much the fund has earned in terms of investment return during the year, and that investment return is what is credited to employee contributions in the plan. You see that there's a little difference of 0.2% here between the 12.65 advertised and the 12.45 given, and that 0.2% represents fees paid for by the fund. So the rate credited to employee contributions is net of fees.
Thank you, Eve. Kent, I have one for you. I'm a relatively new NB Power employee, less than 2 years. I'm close to retirement. If I'm only in the pension for 5 years, does it still turn into monthly payments in retirement, or does it get treated differently? Is there anything I can do to increase the value of my pension if I will likely only be vested for 5 years?
Thank you for the question. So since conversion, you only need 2 years to be vested into the plan. So if you're approaching 2 years, then it's good news. You're almost vested now. One thing to consider to maybe be able to grow your fund, you may have past casual time that you may be able to purchase back, or maybe you do have some time in another province under another jurisdiction that you would have paid into the public service plan there. We do have reciprocal transfer agreements that you could possibly transfer to the PSPP as well.
So just building on that, Kent, I have another question for you. Can you explain what vesting status means?
Yeah, vesting is a term we use that means basically you have a right to a lifetime pension when you retire. The earliest you could start drawing that pension would be 55 years old, and then you go to latest 65 if you terminate during that time. You can also work till 71, but you'd have to start pension by the age of 71 if you're still working. But basically vesting means that you have a right to a lifetime pension when you do terminate your employment.
Perfect. I have another one for you, Kent. It's going to be in French.
When I want to ask a calculation for my pension, can I consult somebody in person? It's easier for me. A very good question. But certainly you can come to our offices from Monday to Friday, like my colleague mentioned. We're open from 8:15 to 4:30 in the afternoon every day. And we can also have Teams meeting or by phone. But yes, it'd be a pleasure to receive you in person at our offices at any time from Monday to Friday. Thank you, Ken.
All right, Sean, I have another one for you. While the markets have performed remarkably well despite tariffs, protectionism, war, and unrest, it seems we are overdue for a correction. Has Vescore taken any defensive action or actions due to these specific conditions?
It's true that markets have been remarkably resilient, including in 2025. But the portfolio is quite defensively positioned by design, with significant share of its portfolio of the holdings in relatively lower risk strategies such as corporate bonds, lower volatility equity, real estate, and infrastructure. The plan itself doesn't have a large amount of exposure to really large US-based technology names, which have dominated the headlines and have dominated returns in, as an example, in the American stock market. Because we have a view, and it's in accordance with the statement of investment policies, to generate a portfolio that's designed to perform under a variety of market conditions. So when equity markets perform really, really well, we tend to not keep up, and nor would we want to. Conversely, when equity markets and markets in general have a large correction, we historically and would expect to do much, much better on the downside. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Sean. One of the last ones that we received in advance. This one is for you, Eve. How is the pension invested and potential returns made and recontributed to employees?
That's a good question, and certainly a good way to put it. You know, in the assets in the pension are invested, as we've been saying, in a relatively secure and secure way, and the way that what it does for members is when you do achieve good investment results, the plan can, on the other end, provide cost of living adjustment, predictable cost of living adjustments. The plan can be more secure. The plan can increase its funded position such that the benefits to be paid to the members can be more secure, more predictable, and that you can count on for the rest of your life. We need to say that in this pension plan, the employer is not allowed to remove money from the pension plan. And so the money, all the money in the pension plan will ultimately be used for the benefit of the members, be reinvested in the members through cost of living adjustments at this point in time. But as the fund gets even more gets to higher funded ratios, we can certainly see potentially reduction in contributions. We can establish some reserve to guarantee cost of living adjustments in the future. And there's also possibilities under the funding policy for the Board of Trustees to suggest some other benefit improvements if and when we get to a very well-funded position higher than right now. But short answer is it's all reinvested for the benefit of the members and solely for the benefit of the members.
Perfect. Thank you, Eve. I recognize that it's 1 minute after 1, but we do have several questions, and I will ask your indulgence that we go to about 1:15, so we can go through a few questions that have been typed into the chat. So Sean, I think this one might be for you. Are there any options to choose different risk investments within the plan? For example, investing in the S&P 500 to assure about 10% yearly return. I'm in my 20s and I've got a ways to go before I retire, so I wouldn't if my money would be invested in growth stocks.
That type of choice is you often see in a different type of pension structure, a defined contribution type pension structure. But this, however, is designed, the pension plan that you're in is designed to provide you a stable retirement income for life upon retirement. So the investment policy and the investment allocations are codified in a statement of investment policies that is approved by the Board of Trustees. And we are responsible for executing an investment strategy in accordance with that investment policy. So the answer, the short answer is no. There's no choice for you as a contributing member to make, but you do get the advantage of a very, very strong retirement income upon completion of the working career.
Great. Thank you, Sean. This one might be also for you. Given the current economic climate, is there a concerted effort to prioritize Canadian investments?
The comforting position that we're in at the moment is that your plan is a little over 50% invested in Canada, which is very high compared to other large pension organizations in Canada. Of the 50% that's not invested in Canada, about half is overseas, and about half of that, or 25%, is in the United States. Now, the United States itself is an important investable market, but we are very aware of kind of the volatility and the risks that are present in 2025. So we've been defensively positioning the portfolio, and we've been quite pleased with the way the portfolio has performed thus far, albeit with likely some continued volatility in the future. So we recognize that, but we do have a very strongly positioned portfolio with a high degree of investment in Canada.
Perfect. Thank you, Sean. This one might be for Kent. I sent a question previously, but it hasn't been answered. Can you talk about beneficiaries? I'm single and I have my sister as my beneficiary. Will she get my contributions should I die before I retire?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So basically, if you don't have a spouse and you name the beneficiary, we need to look at the first thing if you're vested or not. If you're not vested, then your beneficiary would receive a refund of your contributions with accumulated interest. If you are vested, and we talked about that just previously, if you have at least 2 years paid into the plan, your beneficiary would then receive a termination value and a lump sum payment, which is the calculation that we'd have to perform.
Perfect. Thank you, Kent. I'm just going, sorry, I'm going through here. Okay, this one might be for Sean. Given that stock markets are at an all-time high, if the Canadian and world markets all decrease by 30% in correction, roughly how much or the percentage decrease would you expect the pension value to decrease to?
We do regular stress tests like that, and actually do that on a quarterly basis, update our analysis and present it to the board regularly. And it's true, it does happen where equity markets correct by 30%. We saw that in 2008, where it was even more than that. And what we've would expect under that scenario is that there would be a negative return in the plan. The negative return would be in the single digits. But importantly, the plan itself would, with its present funded status, would remain well funded. And so we can afford, the plan can afford some level of market correction without impacting the sustainability of the plan or the benefit security that's the very strong benefit security that's currently within the plan.
Good, thank you, Sean. Eve, I think this might be for you. Once COLA is given, can it be taken away?
Very good question. So once COLA is given, we call it, it makes part of your base benefits. And the base benefits is the benefits that's protected the most by the pension plan. And so in order for COLA to be taken away, the plan would have to fall to a funded ratio that's likely lower than 100%, in fact, lower than probably around 90%, because there's things that the Board of Trustees can do, like increasing contribution as a first line of defense. It would stop to provide COLA, but it wouldn't reduce the COLA that's already provided. And so we would have to see a funded ratio drop from the current 136% to somewhere well below 100%. And this is where the primary risk management test comes into place. We believe that that can only happen about 0.45% of the time. And we do scenarios for the Board of Trustees, and the type of investment return that would be required for such a catastrophic scenario to happen would be a return that's akin to those that we had during the Great Depression. We have to go all the way back to the Great Depression of the early 30s to see scenarios in where we would have to reduce benefits. And we looked at all the negative scenarios that have happened since then, whether it be the Second World War, the oil crisis of the 70s, the market crash of 87, the dot-com of the early 2000, the 2008 downturn. All of those do not result in reduction of benefits or removal of any COLA that has been granted. So it is very secure.
Thank you, Eve. I have another one for you. But just before going to that, I want to state to the folks that are still on the call with us that we'll not get through all of your questions live. However, what we will do is a video when this is completed, and it will be posted online on the PSPP website that is hosted. And you can go and see this presentation as well as a video with the Q&As that weren't answered live during this session. So we'll go to one more, and this is around the funded ratio, Eve. It says, it's wonderful to see the funded ratio at an all-time high of 136.5%. Thank you for sharing the traffic lights and thresholds. Is there a plan for the possibility where the funded ratio continues to grow and grow to, say, 200% or more?
Thanks for the question. There is a document called the funding policy, which provides the trustees with a roadmap as to what to do when the funded ratio do increase. And we do have various thresholds at which the funded ratio, when you reach those funded ratios, certain actions by the trustees are taken. And when we look at the funding policy, if we do reach 140% at some point in time, shortly thereafter, there is a contribution reduction actually that's provided under the funding policies. Second, if we continue to increase, there's a reserve to cover the next 10 years of indexing. To make COLA even more secure in your plan, you would put a reserve in the liability to ensure that it would be paid to members. Once that's done, then the trustees have the ability to suggest other benefit improvements to the pension plan to benefit the members in accordance with step 4, that there's various conditions that have to be met, but certainly the Board of Trustees could propose some of those changes if they were very well funded to the parties, being the province and the various unions who have signed the Memorandum of Understanding. And so that's what would happen. So would the funded ratio go to 200? No, because benefits would be increased well before that in order to provide more benefits to the members. And then, as I've said before in another questions, all the funds in the pension fund belong to the members. And so they will ultimately all be used for the benefit of the members through increased benefits.
Great. Thank you, Eve. I'm going to thank Eve and Kent and Sean for answering the questions on the spot like this live. Just before we sign off, I want to say that there was a positive comment in the chat that it's not a question, but I think it's worthwhile sharing. And I just want to say I contacted the member services team to get a pension estimate a few months ago, and they were super helpful. So that's always good to hear for those that are providing that advice to our members. So
we'll conclude this session of questions and answers. If you do have questions still that you weren't able to ask, you can always do it by email.
And a reminder that a copy of the recording of today's meeting will be available on the plan's website in the coming days. If you have any questions specific to your own pension, please contact VESCOR's member services team using the information on the screen. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, thank you for having joined us today over your lunch hour. This concludes this year's annual information meeting, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you. Merci.